Hi guys, welcome to Lesson 5, Ratios Unit. Before we get started, let's watch this quick video.
I know this sounds weird, but ratios are everywhere around you, even in sports.
When you are watching a football game, you can take the ratio of one team's score to the opposing team's score. However, I would rather watch basketball, and someday I hope to be good enough to play on a college basketball team. So I practice shooting hoops almost every day. Ratios actually help me practice basketball because I like to keep track of how well I am doing. Whenever I'm shooting at hoops, I like to calculate the ratios of shots made to shots missed. This is really easy to do because the ratio is simply a comparison of two numbers. So far today, I made 5 shots and 2 missed shots. My shooting ratio of shots made to shots missed is 5 to 2. The higher my shooting ratio is, the better I'm doing at making baskets. Now my shooting ratio is 6 to 2. If only doing slam dunks were as easy as calculating ratios.
All right, so that was our quick video, on how ratios and basketball can be connected. So moving on to Lesson 5, we are looking at work where when you have problems where they give you part of the information rather than the whole. So, or when you are given part-to-part information and some whole. So I was trying to figure out which are part-to-part ratios and what are part-to-whole, and also how to solve these problems. So look on our classwork, example 1, page S16. So it says, a county superintendent of highways is interested in the number of different types of vehicles that regularly travel within his county. In the month of August, a total of 192 registrations were purchased for passenger cars and pickup trucks at the local Department of Motor Vehicles, or the DMV. The DMV reported that in the month of August, for every 5 passenger cars registered, there were 7 pickup trucks registered. How many of each type of vehicle were registered in the county in the month of August? So using this information in the problem, write 4 different ratios and describe the meaning of each. Okay. The easiest ratio that we can see there are the cars registered to pickups registered, and that was 5 to 7. The next one we can look at are pickups registered to cars registered. So write down what ratio you think that is. These 2 ratios are what we would consider part to part, right? So we have cars to pickups and pickups to cars. That's not our total number, right? That's just us comparing cars and pickups. So those are part-to-part ratios. Another ratio that we would find that we see here are total vehicles registered to cars registered. This is our whole to part ratio. That's 192 to 5. If you see here, they tell us that it is a total of 192 registrations. That's our whole number, or part of the whole rate of the ratio, and 5 which is the cars registered, and that's part. So that's whole to part. What is another whole to part ratio that you see in this problem? So pause here to write your other ratios. So remember, you are completing this information, pickups registered to cars registered, and to determine or write down the other whole to part ratio. Moving on. Lesson 5, example 1, page 16, S16 continued. So it's the same problem that we just had, but now we're moving on to the next part. Letter B, make a tape diagram that represents the quantities and the part-to-part ratios that you wrote. Again, our part-to-part ratios were the cars to pickup. So passenger cars registered to pickup trucks registered. So our cars registered to pickups registered was 5 to 7. We're going to draw a tape diagram. Cars had 5, so we're going to put 5 boxes. And pickups had 7. We're going to put 7 boxes. Here is our tape diagram that represents one of our part-to-part ratios. Pause here to create your other part-to-part ratio tape diagram. Next is letter C. How many equal-sized parts does the tape diagram consist of? So I'm just going to use my 5 to 7 ratio, which I had earlier. So we had 5 boxes here for cars and 7 boxes for pickups. So that tells me that 5 plus 7 equals 12. These are the equal-sized parts that we have. Letter D asks, what total quantity does the tape diagram represent? Remember our whole number up here? Yes. All these boxes, all 12 of these boxes should equal 192. What value does each individual part of the tape diagram represent? So now what we're looking for is how much does each of these boxes represent. Okay, remember, once again, we're looking at equivalent equivalent ratios. So that means each box represents the same amount, right? We said that all 12 boxes should equal, when you add them all up together, should equal 192, or when you multiply them all together, should equal 192. So the way we will find out how much each of these boxes represents is 192 divided by 12. Okay, so you can calculate this. Okay, you can, if you want to figure this out for yourself, you can pause this. Otherwise, that means each box represents 16 vehicles. Okay, so now we want to know how many of each type of vehicles were registered in August. We said that each box represents 16 vehicles. So for cars, if we put 16 in each of those boxes, we have 16 times what equals what? So we had 16 times 5, and that equals 80. Yes. Ooh, I had to think about, make sure my math was correct on that one. It's correct. Pickups. We put 16 in each of these boxes, right? Whenever you have a tape diagram representing one ratio, all these boxes will always have the same number. So we had 7 boxes for pickups, and each one is worth 16. So 16 times 7 equals 112. Okay, so if you add 80 plus 112, that equals 192. So we had 80 cars and 112 pickups registered. All right, so guys, remember, anytime you need to pause the video so that you can copy down the work, make sure you do that. If you are done copying, we're moving on to Lesson 5, Example 2, page S17. Now, the Superintendent of Highways is further interested in the number of commercial vehicles that frequently use the county's highways. He obtains information from the DMV for the month of September and finds that for every 14 non-commercial vehicles, there were 5 commercial vehicles. If there were 108 more non-commercial vehicles than commercial vehicles, how many of each type of vehicle frequently use the county's highways during the month of September. The keyword here, keywords here are if there were 108 more non-commercial vehicles than commercial vehicles. Okay, keep that in mind. Now, we were given the ratio of 14 to 5, so that means 14 non-commercial vehicles. Here are our boxes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, I think that gives us 14. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Ooh, 2 more. 14 boxes. Okay, to our commercial vehicles, and there were 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, now they told us that there were 108 more non-commercial vehicles than commercial vehicles. So that means from this box over here to this box over here, there were 108 vehicles. So that tells me that in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 boxes, those should all total or equal to 108. To figure that out, I'm going to divide 108 by 9. So 108 divided by 9. You can always use a multiplication chart to figure this out. And that tells us that there are 12 vehicles. Each box represents 12 vehicles. So I'm going to put my 12s in there. Okay. Since these are equivalent ratios, so that means each box is equivalent or the same. That means for non-commercial vehicles, I put 12s in the rest of the boxes. Okay. I know that each box is worth 12 times the 14 boxes, and that will give me 168. So I have 168 non-commercial vehicles. For commercial vehicles, I'm going to put 12 in each box, and that tells me commercial vehicles is 12 times 5, because I had 5 boxes. I must be getting tired because I noticed my boxes aren't even here. So 12 times 5, and that equals 60. So I have 168 non-commercial vehicles and 60 commercial vehicles. So your next steps. You are going to complete the exercises. Once you're done with those exercises, you're going to do problem set questions 1 to 4. When you're done, you feel ready, get an exit ticket from me. Now, if you feel like you've got this work, by doing the exercises, you feel comfortable with the work, you can even get an exit ticket already, and then work on the problem set questions. Let me know what works best for you. So, if you have any questions, write your name on the board. I'll be coming around to see what you've gotten done for today. Until next time, guys.